Hello, I'm Mark Ells, Barnstable's town manager, and this is my town manager update for the town council meeting on September 7th, 2023. We're proceeding with the budget action calendar for FY 2025. The action items in the budget calendar include our annual meeting with town council and school committee for the second meeting in October. We're also preparing our budget instructions for FY 2025. We expect to distribute them this month. And we have available now our budget action calendar that we will share with town council so that you can follow through our budget year through its conclusion next June. As a note, I've met with the president of the town council, and I know we've had requests from town council, and we are planning 2 workshops coming up at the second meeting, the 21st of September. The first workshop will be on the taking of private roads. It's a continued discussion from last summer where we began to discuss how to approach private roads in Barnstable. And the second being related to a flow neutral ordinance or bylaw in Barnstable that would coincide with us proceeding with sewer expansion and the discussion of the financial impacts if the town decided to adopt such a bylaw or ordinance. In this past on this past Monday, September 4th, Recreation completed the last official day of our beach season operations, and I can't thank our staff enough, our gate attendants, our beach aides, our lifeguards, our supervisors, the combined effort with our natural resources department this year, with some of the environmentally sensitive areas that we have along our coastline, our police department, our DPW, everybody did a wonderful job. It was a great season, and I want to thank them. And please be aware, though, we no longer have lifeguards or other staff at our beaches, and our bathrooms now are closed, though you will see bounce houses through October 9th at many of our beaches. Similar to pre-season, we're going to be locking our gates at 9 o'clock at night, and that's going to continue through October 9th. They are being opened. They begin opening them at 5 a.m. This is at all the gated beaches. Now, we did this because we began to see behaviors outside of the hours where we had staff there, mainly late night, that were undesirable. This made a significant difference. In the preseason, obviously, we lock them through season. We're going to keep it postseason and evaluate to determine how in the future we will do this. So just want to let everybody know we've had some fishermen calling. We know that they're showing up at dawn. We'll get those gates open so that they can get out. And I think false albacore is in, and a lot of people go to Craigville Beach for that this time of year. So I do expect that those will be open early morning so they can get out there and access. On September 1st, 2023, the town of Barnstable filed its application for a watershed permit in accordance with CMR 21, which is the watershed permit regulations. The Mass Department of Environmental Protection approved revisions to Title V and watershed permitting on July 7th, 2023. Filing of an application of a watershed permit is the next step in the process for our community to determine future action required under the revised Title V and watershed permit regulations. This application consists of a request for a watershed permit covering the entirety of the town of Barnstable and its identified watersheds, in accordance with our comprehensive wastewater management plan. Now, that was also prior approval by our community and our county and state. We're also planning to meet with the town of Mashpee regarding our application as it relates to the intermunicipal agreement that we have for the Pompanesett Shoestring Bay watershed. And at this point, now that we filed our permit, we may be the first in the state of Massachusetts to do so. We're awaiting further discussions with Mass DEP regarding this application, and we'll keep the town advised of our progress. The town of Barnstable is now a complete street community with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation approval of Barnstable's prioritization plan. By receiving this approval, it makes Barnstable eligible for state design and construction funding. Now, the Complete Streets program is when you design your streets for people of all ages and all abilities that prioritizes safety, comfort, and accessibility. And in adopting the Complete Streets policy, a municipality commits to plan, design, maintenance, and operation of right-of-ways to that quality of life for our community. So great job, planning and development, and DPW in putting forward this information so that we can become a complete streets community. The Department of Public Works provides the town of Barnstable with water resource management planning, and they do it in coordination with our water districts and our community. And DPW has completed a new source evaluation report. They did it back in 2019. They've been out in our community talking about this. And it's for the drinking water in Barnstable. Now, specifically, it was done for the Hyannis water system. And I think you're familiar with this, that we acquired a private water company. Now, remember that the village of Hyannis used to be provided water, drinking water, by a private water company. In 2005, the town acquired it. They did it for water quality and water quantity reasons. The infrastructure had deteriorated. We were having issues with quality in the system. Fire hydrants wouldn't open. And so the town made the decision to purchase this from the private company to create a water supply board that, we had many very important volunteers to help guide this through its planning and implementation. Deb Crow and Peter Cross and Skip Simpson and others participate. Alan Goddard all participated on this committee initially, and now it continued effort with volunteers. But when we acquired this, we recognized that in managing a public water system, we have both existing demands and anticipating future demands. So, in embarking on this new source evaluation report, Public Works was specifically focused on the Hyannis water system, but also sharing it with the entire community and certainly all the water purveyors in the community. And we've done that. In the report, it says that there is a water deficit in the system. And that has led to further discussion as to what is a water deficit. I've had people ask me, does that mean when I turn on my faucet, we don't have enough water in the system? Does that mean we don't have adequate fire flow? The answer is no, that is not what it means. What a water deficit in our system in Hyannis means is that when we plan for the water we need, we also look for redundancy in the system, meaning that we have more water than we need. I'll give you a couple examples in a minute, but so that when, for example, we need to do maintenance on a well, or we have an emerging contaminant present itself or a regulatory change occur, that we can choose what we don't operate, what we don't pump water from, and when we choose to do that. Now, sometimes you don't have any choice. Something doesn't work the way you had anticipated. Sometimes it's planned. Most of the time, it's actually planned. So when we talk about a water deficit, it isn't that you're going to turn on your water and you're not going to have adequate pressure or water at all. It is that we need to find these redundant backups for our system. That's the way you do water planning, water supply planning, and that's what we've been doing and we continue to do. Now, if you're familiar with the Hyannis system, you know that we were in the forefront of many of the changes that have resulted from these emerging contaminants that we're seeing in our environment. It's not unique to the Cape, but it's no surprise, given that we live on top of the water we drink, that we're seeing it, and it is significant. So I just want everybody to know, because I'm getting more and more questions. I'm hearing people make statements about, well, we're out of water, et cetera. That's not the case. What we're doing is planning for the future. It's being done appropriately. Concurrent with this study, we're out there looking at how to better secure the wells that we have. You're probably familiar that we put filter systems on many of our wells. We're doing it on straightway well right now. We're in design, then permitting, then construction. So that's upcoming. So that'll add to our redundancy ability. We're also in this study looking at new sources. You'll see lots of discussions. If you want to go online, you can certainly look at the report yourself along the Mid-Cape Highway, all the way from, the fish and wildlife properties that we have on the east side of town, all the way through to West Barnstable and north of West Barnstable conservation lands, north of 6A. You can see lots of sites, the evaluation we're doing. We were directed by town council to look at municipal sites or state sites and try to secure the ability to evaluate and potentially use those for future water supply. Stay tuned. You're going to hear a lot more about this, but I just want the public to know that this is part of what you do when you manage a water supply, and we're not in a mode where we can't supply both regular water or fire supply. There's no issue there. While we're talking about water, PFAS, PFOA, emerging contaminants. They call them forever chemicals. Remains in the forefront of discussion with our public, and people call me a lot about this. I think some recent results may have come out from the Silent Spring studies. And I had people talk with me about the fact that they have these chemicals in them. I think probably all of us at this point have these chemicals in us, and I'll share why in a second. But and they immediately go to the fact that it came from my drinking water, and that the drinking water is the source of these chemicals. So I'm going to start to share information now that hopefully our public will take the time to understand, inform themselves, and ask more questions. We also expect new regulations to be coming out from Mass DEP in the near future that'll have significant impacts on Cape Cod as to where we draw our drinking water from, given that we live on top of that drinking water, and then where we discharge it once we've put it in a system, run it through our homes, done what we ever do, whether we drink it or whether we bathe in it or whether we wash our clothes in it, and then whatever we do with it. Most of us discharge it on our own lot through a septic system. Another discussion for another day. But it's really important that we understand this. Every resident in our community should be aware of this issue. And that as this advances, these emerging contaminants aren't just from, we see a lot of focus on fire foam. Yes, absolutely a source. We really don't have industry down here that's introducing these chemicals. So it's either coming from a point source, like an identified location where they discharge fire foam. And now though, given that we have the ability to test for this down to parts per trillion, used to be parts per million and then parts per billion. Now we're down to parts per trillion. And that's like an eyedropper in a swimming pool. That's probably even more than that, quite honestly. We can detect these down to very low limits, and the regulators are going to regulate them down to those limits. It isn't just fire foams. It is products that we use every day in our home. So when I had the conversation with the residents about this PFAS that was detected through a test that was done through a research group, I asked them, well, do you use products in your home that contain PFAS? Because how does PFAS get in your body? Well, you can drink it, ingest it. It can be absorbed through your skin. You can breathe it. You can imagine the issues our firefighters are presented with when they're trying to save lives with fire foam, but they're also, potentially breathing in this, and certainly a larger issue nationwide for us to consider as we move forward. But back to us. So the people said, well, no, we don't use any products. I said, really? Do you have Teflon pans? Do you wear clothing that's fire resistant or wrinkle resistant? Do you eat microwave popcorn? Do you eat like a hamburger, maybe from a fast food place that's wrapped in a piece of plastic, kind of like shiny looking paper? Those are all loaded with PFAS, and there's no limit on your exposure to it. It's not regulated. They said, oh, yeah, we do. I said, we need to start thinking about this. So what are we doing as your town manager and our staff, respective staff? We're accelerating our municipal education program to the public on these emerging contaminants, on where they come from, on how they impact us, on what we can do to remove them from the environment. A lot of people ask me these questions more and more, and they always come back to, well, it's our water supply, or it's the wastewater treatment plant. And, the way I answer them is the water system and the wastewater treatment plant is simply the conduit through which the water passes that has these chemicals in it. And with a treatment plant, it's even more complicated because it's not just through sewer, but everybody pumps their septic systems. What you do in your home goes into the ground or goes into a truck that goes to the treatment facilities and everywhere. So this isn't just a Barnstable thing. This is a nationwide challenge. These emerging contaminants are used regularly. They're not regulated. You can walk into a store and buy them off a shelf. So when somebody asks me, well, was it the water supply? In Hyannis, no, we have a no detect at this point. We've put filters on. But more importantly, are you looking at what you're consuming or your other potential exposure points? Do you understand that this is something that's out there and it's a real challenge? So, we're going to start a very aggressive communication, education process. And hopefully our public will embrace this, will ask more questions. Because depending on our land use, that really begins to speak to how long will this issue be in our water resources. When I first got into environmental engineering, we were talking about nitrogen then, and we were looking at water supplies then, but we weren't looking at sensitivities and embayments. We were looking at drinking water levels and it being linked back to health impacts on infants, actually. And then over time, as we understood it more and we developed better techniques to model and to monitor this, now we've understood that the broader environment, the natural environment, is what's impacted. Back to PFAS. we're focused on the impacts on humans. I guarantee you, within my lifetime, certainly, but I believe that we're going to be discussing the broader, which is, oh, okay, we got it out of the drinking water, but now it's in the environment, and now it's in the bays and the ponds and everywhere else. We need to begin thinking about how to remove this at whatever its source is. On Cape Cod, we live on top of the water we drink and swim in and use. We got to think about this, and we got to educate ourselves on it. We've got to come up with a plan to reduce it at minimum, eliminate it at best. So thank you. Stay tuned. We're going to continue this discussion. You're going to hear a lot more about it. Thank you.